Okay, in this video we're going to set up Wave's multi-rack sound grid to work with the SD9. Got the SD9 up, we got a song up in Pro Tools, it's all working perfectly fine. And we're going to boot this multi-rack Wave sound grid. If it's not on the, whatever we call this down here, the launcher, you could probably find it. It might be buried in here, but applications, it's probably in the Waves folder. Waves applications, oh gosh, where it is, multi-rack sound grid. So if it's not down here, that's where it is, gosh knows. Anyway, we're gonna boot it up, and this is a shell program. What it does is this is where you instantiate the plugins. You gotta route to and from the SD9, but the plugins get loaded here and they get actually run on the Wave server. So a couple things about this, a couple things to look at. This is your main screen, we're going to, there are a couple screens to know about. You probably don't have to mess with. Sound grid inventory. I don't know if you want to zoom in and see this, kind of see what's going on here. You don't have to mess with anything, but this does show what's going on in our system. Down at the bottom, it's talking to the server. If this is disconnected, that could be a problem. This is the driver on the computer I'm working on. I'm not sure what that is. Just the Multirack, the program software we're in, and here's the SD9. So the key thing here is I'm seeing the SD9, I'm seeing the server, and I'm seeing the software. Any deeper than that, it might take some, if you have problems, this is, if things pop up red and worried, let me know. The other thing that's pretty important to have is the sound grid connections page. This should be stored with everybody's user working, so it shouldn't be an issue. But what's going on here is I have turned on both a send from the SD9 IO, giving me an output channel of 64 channels coming from the SD9 and going to Multirack. This is the Multirack software. And then coming back from the Multirack software, which I'm in right now, 64 channels going back to the SD9. And again, there's nothing on. They're both on. And I know from personal experience, if I pull the Ethernet cable and things start getting weird, these things start turning red. And so that's important to know. So these are just some troubleshooting issues. Now that we're in here, it's pretty simple. Let's add a compressor, and then we'll go over to the SD9 and route to it. So click to add rack. Since it's going to be a compressor on the vocal, we'll just do a mono, but this is also where you do stereo, but we do mono. And now you're looking at each one of these as a processor. Let's add an LA2A. So I click the plus button, and I've got all these different Waves plugins to choose from. Let's try an LA2A on the vocal. So the CLA2A, we load that up. And if I click on it, it's a double click. It's double click, there's my LA2A. This is where I'm gonna wanna tweak. And remember how I mentioned there were 64 channels getting into this thing? Let's make sure it's assigned mono. It's coming in mono 1. So that's from the SD9, mono 1. And it's going to go back to the SD9. Here's its output over here. Don't think that because you see the number 1 there, it's actually assigned. I'm not exactly sure what that number applies to, but it is not, it is working. Okay, so it automatically did it for us. Cool. All right, excellent. So we have this set up now. Let's go over to the SD9, and we're gonna pick a channel. Let me start Pro Tools, so you don't need to show the Pro Tools. I'm just gonna loop the vocal for a moment. So I got the vocal going. I'm just gonna solo the vocal in Pro Tools.
Try a little.
And you can hear it already has a bunch of reverb and stuff on it. We're ignoring that. We're just gonna compress it. So I find my vocal. I think it's on the second layer here, third layer. Here's my vocal selected, and we're gonna put a compressor on it. So on the SD9, feel free to get all nice and close here. You do have 2 inserts. You've got the first insert, which is before compressor and EQ, and a second insert, which is after the compressor EQ. I like to put my compressors before the EQ, so I want to put it there, and that did just work. You can click the insert button, but I've had, in that area on the screen, I've had problems making that work. Oftentimes, what I'll do is I'll click down at the bottom, because it turns out what you're pulling up as far as a window is the same as the output window. And down at the bottom, you see your inserts. So I'm doing insert A, the one before the EQ. I click on that. And I say, okay, insert A, send off to waves 1 through 16 and waves 1. That is the same one that we were assigning a moment ago in the Multirack. Now I got to return it. Don't forget to return it. It doesn't do the returns automatically. Returns, waves 1 through 16, waves 1. One more very important step. it's not on. There's an on button right here. Sometimes my finger can pull it. It's not really having much luck, but this soft button here does turn it on. And of course, it's depending on which channel you're on, it'll be a different soft button. But for the one that we had selected, that's it. So that turns it on. This should be working now. I'm going to press play in Pro Tools. And let's go over here and let's see if it's working. So back to my sound grid, and it's working. I'm just not seeing any gain reduction because I need to turn the gain reduction up. It's working. So there you go. Pretty simple. You know, anything else that's really important in this video to add to this video, we'll put it in the second video.